Hey guys, so we are going to take a look at solving polynomial equations. Before we do, I want to show you the different types of problems that you could see with polynomial equations. The first one is one like this where they give you a table and then they ask you to select all the roots of the polynomial equation. You don't actually have to do any solving or synthetic division to solve this problem. All you have to do is look at the table and find where the remainder is 0. Anywhere where the remainder is 0, that tells me that that is a factor, which means it can be divided out evenly. So if I'm looking for the things that are factors, I know that my answer choices are B and D. And I want you to be very careful on the test. When it says select all, remember that that tells you that you could choose more than one answer choice. Okay, the next type of problem that you can see, and I'm not going to work out both of the next type of problem, I just want to show them to you. Sometimes you will be asked to find the remainder. Okay, so remember that the remainder is the number that is left over after you perform synthetic division. And sometimes you will be asked to just straight up do that division. Okay, so here's an example of a problem where you are asked to divide, and then you are asked to find all the roots. And then here is a problem where you are asked to just find the remainder. Okay, I am actually going to work out this problem because in this problem you'll be able to see how to answer both questions. The thing that is tricky for some of the students about this problem is I don't have to find the number that goes in the corner for my synthetic division because they've already found it for me. So remember that in order to set up synthetic division, the first thing I'm going to do is in the corner of my box, if you're in Miss Brunson's class, we call it our house, I'm going to write the number that I'm dividing by. Sometimes it will be given to me as x is equal to a number, and sometimes it will be given to me as x plus something or x minus something. Remember, when it's given to me like this, I have to set it equal to 0, and I have to solve for the number that is going to go in the house, okay? But for the problem that I've been given here, I don't have to do that. It's already set for me. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the equation that I've been given to set up my chart. So the first thing I have to check is I have to make sure that all powers are present. So I have to the third, to the second, to the first, and then I have something without a variable. So I do have all of my powers, so I'm ready to write this in the equation. But if I was missing a power, I would have to put a 0 in. All right, so I've got 1, and then I've got -6 plus 11, and then -6 again. With synthetic division, we always drop the very first number, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my line and drop that number. Okay, so now I'm going to say 3 times 1, so times 3, is going to give me 3. And that's going to give me a positive 3. So I'm going to do my math vertically, and I'm going to get my -3. And again, I'm going to say 3 times -3, so times 3 is going to give me -9. I'm going to do my math vertically and get my positive 2. Once again, 3 times 2. And that's going to give me positive 6. And remember that the box at the end determines my remainder. So for this particular problem, that means that my remainder is equal to 0. So here's what I know so far. I know one of my x's is equal to positive 3 because they gave it to me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to circle that. All right. I also know that I have a series of 3 numbers here that I need to put back into an equation. So I know that if I started with a degree of 3, then now I'm going to have a degree of 2, and that is because I factored out an x out of all of my terms. So if that's going to be to the second, then my next one is going to be to the first, and my last one is not going to have a variable on it. All right, so at this point, I can solve my problem two different ways. If I'm allowed to use my calculator, I'm just going to put this in the calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to clear out anything that might be there. I forgot to memory reset my calculator. I'm a bad teacher. And I'm going to type in my problem. And then I know that my solutions are the places where it crosses the x-axis. And I want to say that when you are taking your test, you always want to go to your calculator and use it to find your x-intercepts. It does not matter what type of equation you're solving, your x-intercepts are always going to be your solutions. So I'm going to hit graph. I'm going to make this graph bigger so we can take a look at it. And so I see my solutions are here and here. So I see my solutions are positive 1 and positive 2. But if I want to check that, I can go into my table. And oh goodness, my table is, I'm going to have to scroll up to get to it. And so I'm looking for the places where 0. So I'm going to choose these right here. Okay. So I know that my other additional x's are x is equal to 1 and x is equal to 2. So these are also. So I would select all three of these. Now, what happens if I don't have my calculator, right? So if I don't have my calculator, I'm going to fall back on factoring. So I'm looking for two things that multiply together to give me positive 2, but combine together to give me negative 3. And I know that that's going to be negative 1 and negative 2. So I'm going to come over here and rewrite it. So x squared minus 1x minus 2x plus 2. All right, I'm going to look and see what can come out of the first. Sorry, I guess I should go ahead and draw those parentheses. I apologize. And so I see out of the first one, I can take an x, and I'm left with x minus 1. I see out of the second one, I can take a 2, but because this is negative, this has to be negative, and I'm left with x minus 1. Putting my factors back together, I'm left with x minus 2 times x minus 1. I'm going to set each of those pieces equal to 0, and I'm going to solve them for x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 1, which gives me the same answers.